Hey everyone, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, does anyone remember director Robert Zemeckis? Well, surely you must know about such awesome films that he's made, like the Back to the Future trilogy, along with Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Forrest Gump. But I think not many people these days know that Mr. Zemeckis had a history with motion capture animation. For those who don't know, motion capture is a style of computer animation where you basically have to film the actor's movements first and then splice the computer-generated models on top of them. And in my eyes, this style of animation is very fluid and realistic movement, and it's also very clever. In the past, Robert Zemeckis has made several motion capture animated movies, like Monster House, Beowulf, and A Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey. However, since Christmas is almost here, we're not only here to talk about Robert Zemeckis. We're also going to talk about one of my favorite Christmas stories, The Polar Express by Chris Van Allsburg, who also wrote Jumanji and its sequel, Zathura, both of which have become awesome feature movies. However, I hear that there will be another Jumanji film that just got released today. However, compared to those two stories, Polar Express is different. It's a story full of fantasy, friendship, and adventure. A story that tells us that sometimes something as simple as believing is all it takes to find the true spirit of Christmas. So now, let's get into the movie, shall we? Released on November 10th, 2004, the movie is The Polar Express. Now let's get started, shall we? When a doubting young boy takes an extraordinary train ride to the North Pole, he embarks on a journey of self-discovery that shows him that the wonder of life never fades for those who truly believe. So, what do I think of this movie? Well, this really is a holiday classic. Heck, it's one of my favorite animated Christmas movies of all time. But to further explain why I love the movie, let's move on to Mustang notes. Now, as we all know, this was Robert Zemeckis' first motion capture Christmas movie. Tom Hanks optioned the book in 1999 with the hopes of playing a couple of the characters. One of the conditions of the sale was that the resulting film not to be animated. Zemeckis, however, felt that a live-action version was unfeasible, claiming that it would look really awful and it would be impossible. It would cost $1 billion instead of $160 million. Zemeckis felt that such a version would rob the audience of the art style of the book, which he felt was so much a part of the emotion of the story. In order to keep his vision, a new process was created by which actors would be filmed with motion capture equipment in a black box stage, which would then be animated to make the resulting movie. Hanks stated that this method of working was actually a return to a type of acting that acting in films does not allow you to do, comparing the process to performing a play in the round. Principal photography of the motion capture sequences began on June 11, 2003, and wrapped up in May 2004. The buildings of the North Pole refer to a number of buildings relating to American railroading history. The buildings in the square in the city's center are loosely based on the Pullman factory in Chicago's Pullman neighborhood and the control center is based on Old Penn Station in New York City. Pretty awesome, don't you think? Also to note, the locomotive featured in the movie is an American 284 Berkshire-type steam locomotive with a cow catcher, modeled after the Pierre Marquette 1225, which had spent many years on static display near the Spartan Stadium in East Lansing, Michigan, on the campus of Michigan State University, which was where Chris Van Allsburg recalled playing on the engine when attending football games as a child. In July 2002, Warner Brothers approached the engine's owner, the Steam Railroading Institute, to study the engine. The engine in the movie is modeled from the PM number 1225's drawings, and the sounds from recording made of the 1225's operating under steam. The whistle, however, was taken from Sierra Railway number 3. Now, before I move on, I just need to mention that I saw this movie in theaters with my grandmother on the very same day when I saw Pixar's The Incredibles. Now let's move on to the motion capture animation. And in my opinion, since this was the first motion capture animated movie that I ever watched, I have to admit, it looks really impressive. Though I have heard several folks say that a few characters' eyes sometimes look soulless and emotionless, but despite that, some parts of the movie are very reminiscent to the original book's illustrations. Plus, there are a couple sequences that feel like you're on a roller coaster ride, like during the scene where the train goes over some steep hills at high speed, a scene where the train's observation car gets loose from the train and goes backwards to a railway turntable, and a scene where 3 of the kids go on this huge slide which leads right to Santa's sack. Man, Mr. Zemeckis must have really loved those scenes. However, in my opinion, one of the most intense scenes in the entire movie is when the train has to race to get off a frozen lake before it crumbles. And I think the scene where we see a car filled with broken toys was both sad and really scary when the hobo taunts our main character with a Scrooge marionette, which, in my opinion, was foreshadowing this movie. Another thing that I like about this movie is that this film is sort of a musical. And of course, our first song in the film is called Hot Chocolate, sung by the conductor, along with some pastry chefs and waiters. And in my opinion, this is a really fun number, due to it being reminiscent to the old swing numbers of the 1940s. Plus, it's got great music, great choreography, and of course, it's the kind of song that'll never leave your head. Trust me, it never left me, especially during the end credits. However, I think this was the only song in the movie that was not motion captured, due to the stunts looking almost impossible to pull off without the aid of wires, but that's just a theory. Our next song is called When Christmas Comes to Town, which is sung by Billy and Holly. In the song, Holly, our hero girl, sings about the joys of Christmas, while Billy sings about how he has never been able to experience these joys due to him living in a broken home on the bad side of town. To me, this is a very touching song, and I really love the beautiful visuals in the night sky. Next we come to the title song, The Polar Express. To me, this is my favorite song in the entire movie, and it pretty much ranks up with songs like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or Frosty the Snowman as one of the best Christmas ballads ever. Also to note, while the kids are going through Santa's factory, we hear several other Christmas songs, like Santa Claus is Coming to Town, sung by Frank Sinatra, White Christmas, sung by Bing Crosby, Winter Wonderland, sung by the Andrews Sisters, It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas, sung by Perry Como, along with the Fontaine Sisters, Silver Bells, sung by Kate Smith, and Here Comes Santa Claus, sung by Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters. In my opinion, these covers are wonderful holiday classics. Next we have Rockin' on Top of the World, sung surprisingly by Aerosmith's Steven Tyler. In my opinion, this is such an amazing rock and roll hit. And Steven Tyler's singing is really awesome to listen to. The last song to talk about is Believe, performed by Josh Groban. To me, this song is another classical Christmas song, and it really brings a tear to my eye every time I listen to it. Plus, like Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, they need to play this on the radio more often. Oh, fun fact. The song gained a Grammy Award in 2006 for Best Song Written for Motion Picture, Television, or Other Visual Media. And it got a Golden Globe for the same category at the 62nd Golden Globes Award. In my eyes, this song really deserved it. Now let's move on to my favorite section of these blogs, the cast. Let's begin with Tom Hanks' characters. Starting with the conductor. In my eyes, the conductor is the star of the movie. Also, I think he can be a very strict character at times, and he's determined to get the train to the North Pole on time. But underneath it all, he cares for the safety of the children on the train. Also, what's interesting about this character is that during the beginning of the movie, he punches a few letters in the kids' train tickets. But later, when they're about to go home, he punches more letters in order to form words for the kids to live by. Next we come to the Hobo. This guy is a strange character who lives on top of the Polar Express and rides it for free. What's weird about this guy is that he does not seem to believe in Santa Claus or Christmas, but his negativity tests our main character's fate. In my eyes, the Hobo can be a little eccentric at times, but I don't think he's 100% human, due to him disappearing in the snowy wind several times. Though, I do like the part where he helps our main character get to the front of the train with his skis. And there's also that part where he helps pull the kids back onto the train when it lands on a frozen lake. Next up, we come to Santa Claus himself. As we all know, Santa is a kind old man who gives presents to children every Christmas Eve. However, in this movie, like in the book, Santa picks out one of the children on the Polar Express to give out the first gift of Christmas, which can be any Christmas gift of their choice. You know, I really like how Santa looks in this movie. It looks like he came right out of a Christmas card. Also, I do like that Santa finds one of his sleigh bells on the seat of his sleigh, which was given to our main character as the first gift of Christmas. So, after it was accidentally left behind, he puts it in a present box with a note explaining what happened, and advising our hero to fix that hole in his pocket. You know, I could talk about Tom Hanks' performance as, well, our main character's father, but unfortunately, he doesn't really have a big role in the story. But on the other hand, I think Tom Hanks' narration is really touching. Our main character, Hero Boy, or Christopher, as he's known on Wikipedia, is voiced by former Spy Kid Daryl Sabara. And he's motion captured by not only Tom Hanks, but also Josh Hutcherson. To me, this kid doesn't seem to believe in Christmas or Santa Claus at the beginning, though he wants to believe. But despite that, Christopher seems like a curious young lad, and I like that he's made some new friends while on his trip to the North Pole. Plus, I do like the scene where he tries to retrieve a lost train ticket and helps convince little Billy to come out of the train. Next we have Holly, the hero girl, voiced by Nona Gay. In my opinion, Holly is a rather independent and mature young girl for her age. And I like that she's also very confident. Plus, I really like her Christmas spirit and her leadership. Next we come to a know-it-all kid, voiced by Eddie Deason, who you may remember as Mandark from Dexter's Laboratory, and Snipes the Magpie from Don Bluth's Rockadoodle. Now, this kid is a really talkative person, and he seems to be kind of smart at first, but it is soon apparent that he only wants to be smart, and he needs the ability to learn more. In my opinion, I think know-it-all seems kind of annoying at times, as well as being arrogant. Though, there's one part of the movie involving him that I'm still curious about. How the hay did he manage to get into Santa's bag without being seen? Next we come to Billy, a lonely little boy voiced by Jimmy Bennett, who got to be in Daddy Daycare, The Jungle Book 2, Pooh's Haviland movie, Shorts, and the 2009 Star Trek reboot. Now, Billy believes that Christmas does not work out for him because his parents do not have enough money to buy him presents. In my eyes, Billy is a really sympathetic character, though I do like when he makes friends with Chris and Holly. Another set of characters to talk about is Smokey and Steamer, both voiced by Andre Sogliozzo, whom you folks might remember as Mateo's late grandfather, Alcazar, from Elena of Avalor. However, they were motion captured by the late Michael Jeter, who sadly died from an epileptic seizure during the film's production. Anyway, these guys served as the Polar Express's fireman and engineer. Their job is to drive the train in the engine room. In my opinion, these guys are really colorful characters, and I like the part where they fix the train's light, as well as getting a horde of caribou off the tracks by pulling on Smokey's beard, and fixing the train throttle using a hairpin. And now to move on to my final words. Overall, The Polar Express has got to be one of the greatest Christmas movies ever made. It stays true to Chris Van Allsburg's original book, but Robert Zemeckis does a great job by adding in his own personal touches, like expanding the story, characters, and making it not just an exciting thrill ride, but a heartwarming experience for the whole family. Plus, I make it a tradition to watch this movie every year at Christmas time, along with other Christmas classics. Plus, to me, this movie was a huge technological achievement, Also, the motion capture animation is great, despite a few flaws, like the character's eyes looking emotionless and soulless. But despite that, you have to admit it's a great holiday movie. And so, it gives me great honor to give this movie a full 100%. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me for my final Christmas vlog and my Season 7 finale, Mustang Power.
You can share your goodwill. Oh, share your goodwill. Oh, keep in mind humankind and share your goodwill. You can share your goodwill. Oh, share your goodwill. Oh, keep in mind humankind and share your goodwill. Share your goodwill. Share your goodwill. Share your
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!